Hi, Rob. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure to have you on. Looking forward to speaking to you about Acroud and a few different topics today. To start off with, could you talk us through how did the Acroud story begin for you?
Interestingly, well, that began a few years ago, and I was then the CEO of NLabs that is now sold to Entain. And during that process, I was in discussion with one of the board members at NLabs, and he was also in the board of then NetGaming, now Acroud. And this topic kind of came up about, because he's a good friend of mine, about future and how to proceed after something like that. And that actually opened up this opportunity instead, which was a really interesting opportunity. So I took over then Acroud as CEO and run operations, and I changed my role in NLabs into becoming a board member, basically. And it was a nice challenge to get back from what this NLabs is then gambling, it's an operator, and get back into the affiliation. Since I was the CEO of Catena Media before that, it felt like I wanted to come back and apply some of my thoughts that I've had and learned over being on the operator side as well as Catena. So it felt like a really nice fit and a nice new good challenge. So that's why.
Sure, yeah, definitely, as you say, a kind of a number of factors coming together there, the previous affiliate experience, but then also bringing the operator side into the affiliate. What kind of things did you maybe learn on the operator side that you've then incorporated back into kind of affiliates?
It's more about sitting on the other side of the business relationship, and instead of being the affiliate, you're working with the affiliate, and you kind of learn, seeing both sides of the table. You now have an understanding for what really matters to make a really good relationship in between an affiliate and an operator. And I think that is something that I'm really taking with me, is to understand both sides of the table to create a really, it sounds cliche, but a win-win relationship.
Absolutely, yeah. In terms of Acroud and where the company is going, we understand you're kind of trying to move more from the traditional affiliate model to maybe what you could describe as a more rounded organization, so kind of B2B for other affiliates. Can you tell us more about this and how you're managing this transition?
Yeah, so let's first start with the transition, and we like to say that we're moving towards becoming the media house of the future. We are starting to learn that that's hard to grasp for a lot of people, what that means. So to clarify that, we are moving towards becoming a much more software-based affiliation company. We believe that the future really is in software and providing software for other affiliates, but also providing really strong, solid content. Among these things also video streaming or even software-based content, such as tipping tools in order to make you bet better, etc. But all of that is linked to an affiliation model.
And you mentioned sort of media house of the future. You mentioned it. People not necessarily grasping that concept. How is it kind of being received by the industry?
Yeah, I guess there is that lack of clarification because it is so open-ended, and of course it is open-ended for a reason, I would say, because we don't really know what the future is. So that holds the kind of underlying subtext of always adapting to the future, because otherwise you can't be something of the future. So being very agile, etc. And we believe in the affiliation business model, or even creating new business models within this industry. And with the media house, what we are saying is also that we are moving beyond just the iGaming vertical. And we're working within VPN and finance, but there's other sectors we can quite easily work in with our software, because it is not that purpose built for iGaming. We can already apply it in other verticals and industries as well, which we're seeing. So in the broader perspective is to enter other verticals and not just be an iGaming company. So that's why we have the media house. And of the future, well, we believe a lot of this will be software driven.
Do you see a future where iGaming might only eventually be a small part of the revenue, or do you think it will still always be a central vertical?
A small part. I think we're a long way away from a small part. An equal part of others, I can see that happening. I think, at the moment, other things are a small part, if you will. Even in the software side of things, that's predominantly used by iGaming customers. So yeah, we are, but that journey, I think, is important to be on for a few aspects. I find other growth markets, find other markets that are not necessarily subject to regulatory changes as much, which reduces risk in the share. For example, if you look at VPN affiliation. So that's actually a vertical that works quite similarly to iGaming, but does not hold the same kind of regulatory framework, and also there is not that same public stigma around these kind of services.
So you mentioned that the future a few times, and obviously media house of the future is quite a big concept for the company. In the long run, what are you trying to achieve, and what will you see yourself becoming in the long-term future?
I say in the core that we have our software. We're also going to make what we call our central affiliation system available as a software as a service, which means that we will offer out a complete software suite to any affiliate that has a good creative idea on how to drive traffic and want to monetize that. However, without potentially doing all the back-end work. So you want to create a nice website, you want to have good content, you want to have contracts with all the operators, you want to be able to track your revenue and all of that. That we will provide as a service. And we're almost there. We are lacking to make our own sophisticated affiliate software available to the public. So all our sites that Acroud has, we are running that on a central system, and that we will need. We are packaging that as we speak. But of course, there is quite a difference to having a platform in-house or selling that platform as a service, because you need to be able to, people need to be able to work with it, not just internally. And there is a different amount of documentation, a different amount of APIs. So you need to kind of clean that up, and we're in the midst of that.
Sure. So very specific, big plans for Acroud. But looking at and one of those plans, obviously, as you mentioned, is kind of change and looking to evolve. Looking at the affiliate sector generally, at the moment, is the whole industry kind of changing and evolving, and how much has it changed in the last few years? Because
I have to say, I think it's changed massively over the last few years. Regulations coming into effect in a lot of different countries. Denmark, Sweden, you see governments tightening up around payments, etc. So it's becoming clear to me that it's becoming harder and harder to be a small affiliate and to be compliant, and the big guys, they want to work with the few selected. And this started happening already in my time at Catena, and it was already then clear that the future belongs to size and compliance. So you need to have critical mass in order to sustain all the compliance work that is needed. With all this margins comes with size, but lower margin comes with compliance, because there's a lot of work in order to make sure you stay compliant. So it's definitely not the Wild West it once was. And before, I think it was quite easy to make money in the affiliation industry. Whoever you were, you could start and you can get going 5 years ago, almost at least, because it was a lot of less hurdles. But now there is a lot of barriers to entry. So I think consolidation and compliance are key going forward in this industry. But you see it already in the operator side. It's just slow, first that happens there, then it will happen in the affiliation industry, but we keep seeing it at quite a high pace already.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I was going to bring up consolidation, which you mentioned there, and we've seen a number of mergers, as you say, on the operator side, but even on the affiliate side now. I mean, the Katina, who you used to work for, but Better Collective, and a number of these affiliates at the moment, yeah, they're taking over a lot of the smaller sites, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean that just keeps happening, and to be fair, you see sites that are out there, they get shopped around, and if it's not Catena picking it up, it's Better Collective, or in some cases us or Raketech, or it's about where there is a strategic fit, I guess. When you look at it, all companies have a little bit of a different theory about where to go and where to make the bets, but you keep seeing the consolidation, and now you have gambling.com that is just listed in the States as well. So there are certainly a few.
Yeah, definitely. Recently, you guys reported your financial results. What were the main kind of highlights and takeaway points of those?
Main highlights, I think, is that you start seeing the fruits of our labor in terms of the acquisitions that we've made. It's really showing that we now deliver size and scale. The profitability is not where I want it to be yet, but that has a fair few explanations behind it, in the sense that we are in the midst of actually integrating these acquisitions. Poker has a much more lower season during Q2, etc. But in general, like, there is a lot of things we can do better and will do better going forward. We have started this journey of change during the last 1.5 years since I came in, and we have been really active in transforming the company. We have not, I'm impatient as hell. So obviously I would like it to go a bit quicker, but I keep seeing the results of our work. So that strategic journey that we're on, it's happening, but I want to see the result on the bottom line quicker. But we will now see it. We've had a period where we had to shut down the Dutch market, which was one of our larger markets, due to compliance reasons, and this is due to open up now in October. So it's one of our most important markets are coming back to us, which will be very, very nice. And we have all our assets in place since before, we just couldn't monetize them. So we are definitely not starting from scratch there. So that's an important milestone for us coming here in October.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to ask you about the Dutch market in a minute, so it's good that you mentioned it. But you mentioned a few things that kind of you're looking to work on, and you mentioned your sort of your personal impatience. What are the kind of the biggest industry challenges for Acroud at the moment when it comes to looking to get where you are, where you're aiming for?
So for us, I say the biggest challenge is the same challenge as everybody has. It is, which we're so dependent on. It is Google and how to work with Google in the best way, in the most sustainable ways, so that you are not affected by algorithm updates, etc., and stay compliant to their guidelines. Because you will see a lot of companies out there that will figure out a way to rank quickly, but then they will also disappear after the next Google update, right? So I think, since that is a large part, the organic traffic from the search result is a big part of the business. That's what you do when you have an affiliate that's dependent on Google search. So to always stay relevant and in the forefront, to keep your rankings, I mean, that is the real key in this industry, right? Without that, you have paid media, but if you're on page 4 in Google, you don't have any traffic. So that relevance of always also then trying to see which keywords are then going to trend next, because now fast payouts are not as big as revolutionary as it was 2 years ago to trend on Trustly or fast payouts or whatnot. Now it's other things that are trending again, so you always need to stay relevant, and I think that is it's an industry-wide challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the competition is.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, I'm not sure if you could call it a paradox, but you're equally as dependable on Google, as you say, as it is difficult to kind of to get the best results. Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, it's not just the gambling industry that has this. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter which industry you are in. If you are anyway dependent on traffic, organic traffic coming from SEO, and you're good at SEO, whether it is selling local storage like SureGuard or any of these things to rank high on the right keywords and get traffic from it. I mean, if Google updates and you've done it wrong, a large chunk of your business will go away, even if you're like an e-commerce site or whatever. So that's a big challenge industry-wide.
Yeah, for sure. We mentioned you've mentioned the Dutch market a couple of questions ago, and I'd like to come back to that for this next question. You talked a little bit about your position in the market already. Can you tell us about exactly what your position is and what it means going forward?
In terms of what? Can you specify a little bit?
So you mentioned the changes you needed to make.
The Dutch.
Yeah, a Dutch market, and obviously, as you say, the big launch is upcoming in terms of online gaming, regulated.
So for us, we had sites and still have sites that ranks really well on certain keywords. Of course, we had to turn off all outbound because we couldn't monetize this. Then we wouldn't be compliant. So there has been a challenge of staying relevant. If you're searching for buy new shoes and you get to a site which buy new shoes, best new shoes, and you have the intent of actually buying shoes, but we don't offer any possibility to buy shoes or actually click onwards to someone that sells shoes, Google will not see that you have the full user intent there. So it's a challenge to stay really relevant during this period because some competitors have not given a damn and they have stayed, offering available casinos like Curacao casinos that are against the Dutch regulations, etc. And of course, they have gotten a Google boost. But once the playing field level out, we will regain the few rankings we had. But we used to be number 1, 2, and 3 in the Dutch market, and we are going to get back there quite quickly. We're convinced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a matter of getting back to the top, I guess.
Yes, of course, and we are already solid. I mean, I'm really comfortable there. Once the market opens up, we can do a lot of good business.
Mm-hmm, sure. So a final topic I wanted to ask you about, Rob, is in terms of, I mean, you've mentioned a few things already, but in terms of moving forward, as we, I suppose 2022 really is around the corner now, especially for people who've been maybe planning ahead for it already. What are your kind of goals and targets moving forward for the next few months and maybe for next year as well?
So short term, we are really focusing on winning Netherlands, right? We have the troops are gathered and we're just waiting for the chicken flag to fall so we can reach the finish line. But anyway, you know what I mean. And that is really the short-term focus, while we are also, of course, continuing to focusing on growth on our other sites as well. We have launched a site called betfootball.com, which has AI-driven content, and that is something that we now produce 100 good articles a day regarding different leagues and different football matches, etc., which is really hard for someone else to do since their articles usually are written by humans. We have some tweaks to do to make sure that content is, on par with the journalist or a content writer, but it's certainly getting there. Amount of volume, it's great. So we have great belief in moving forward with software-based, where we are not so dependent on humans and the structural capital that are, we don't want our talent to just walk home at 5 o'clock and then you're left with nothing. So we're trying to build that. And that also then goes for our casino platform, our casino affiliation platform that we want to make available in 2022 for other affiliates. And then, we will be able to develop that to be industry leading when we have clients on it as well. because that will feed into a continuous development as well. So we're betting quite hard on that the future is software in this industry, and rich content. They also sit very well together. And I believe that in 22 we will start seeing that. And we are really moving then towards being a software as a service affiliation company. And obviously we will continue to have our own sites running on our own software suites, because historically the core of this company comes from being a traditional, if you will, affiliates, where we had a lot of different sites for a while, also many different platforms. And we have now gradually moving into a layer of much more sophistication, which I think creates a lot more shareholder value long term, but it also creates a lot higher barriers to entry, and it reduces risk in the company. So, but that strategic journey is not completely easy to communicate to shareholders, nor is it done in 3 months, but it is a company under transition to be more future-proof, if you will.
Absolutely, yeah, plenty of change, and as you say, plenty of focus on the future.
Yeah.
Rob, thanks very much for joining me. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and we're always happy to speak to affiliates and find out more about the industry.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thanks.